Good afternoon, everyone. Lieutenant Governor Dan McKee here at our virtual town hall, small business town hall, every Tuesday, talking about small businesses and everything related to that, including the health, including wearing your masks, making sure we're wearing our masks, and trying to keep this economy open. We're waiting on some of the direction that the governor might be providing this week. We've heard from Mayor Diosa that inside dining is going to be shut down shortly in Central Falls and on Thursday, as of Thursday, I believe. So the coalition will be on today. The coalition members will be on talking about a letter that they have just delivered to the General Assembly, asking for their help, and we'll get into the details of what that letter, speaks to. And also, we've penned a letter to the governor in support of the Small Business Coalition's letter, which is asking for more money to be put into the grants, making them simpler, bringing in as many businesses as possible, not excluding our dentists or our eye doctors, and to, if there is shutdowns, to immediately advance more dollars to help those businesses that we're asking to abbreviate their business dealings or shutting them down to keep us safe. So we should be appropriating dollars there. I'll just say that, we've mentioned on this program a few months ago, 6 weeks ago, about the projected deficit in the state of Rhode Island. I was using information that I received from a couple very, very credible sources coming from different directions, that it was significantly less than the 900 million that was being talked about, closer to the 300 million. The governor mentioned, actually admitted that there was closer to $100 million deficit, and we've been using that projected deficit as a reason not to get monies to our cities and towns, our school departments. They're in need of those dollars right now. We know that the CARE Act dollars are going to expire and have to be, if they're not used, they've got to be given back by December 30th. Our municipalities, our school departments are in dire need of those dollars that they're advancing and spending to protect their communities, and then as well as the small businesses. In addition to that, there's other areas that these hundreds of millions of dollars can go to, and we're certainly aware that families that are getting laid off need help. Child and service organizations need help, and so let's really dig in and get those dollars out to where it's needed the most. But the small businesses, that's what we're here to talk about today. So we got a pretty extensive program. I wanted to bring on Joe Rodeo from our office. Share this program out, call our office, bring Joe on, and along with Mark Haywood. And Joe, welcome.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Governor.
A lot of things going on. Thank you. Oh, and then we got Mark coming on with the mask. That's good.
All right. So, Governor, I broke down and I bought. So everybody sees Bill Belichick with the black mask. So I broke down and I bought a Patriots. It's got a logo here somewhere. I can't find it. But this is one of the Bill Belichicks, because it's got these little ear things here that you can put around your ears so it doesn't. So it's Belichick, and as I've mentioned to you before, the only thing that I would really like to see is Belichick come out in a press conference in a canary yellow suit, kind of like what Cam Newton comes out in. But anyway, yep. No, that's my new one, Governor. I keep adding to the collection.
With the Patriots win the other night, there may be this hope that there might be life after Brady, potentially.
Yeah, potentially. I think everybody was surprised, although it did rain a little bit, as you could see.
Oh my God!
in the second quarter. But anyway,
the weather was very, very, very much on New England side of the fence there. They love that weather. But anyways,
absolutely.
Tell us what's happening there. And I also want to, you've heard us talk about a letter the coalition's providing to get more dollars in the mix, and you've had some interaction with different states of what they're doing. Maybe you could just start off with that, Mark, and then get into some of the details of what might be happening on the federal level.
So, Governor, every Tuesday we have a district director call. So all the district directors throughout New England and the deputy district directors, we have a discussion about what's going on, what does our portfolio look like, what's happening with small business generally, and clearly COVID, the rise of COVID across New England is having an impact. And we got into a situation where we began to talk about certain states. And I don't know if you knew that Governor Scott in Vermont just released another $125 million into the small business community for pure grants. He had, released $75 million. He did $125 million before. The district director in Vermont said that he put another $75 million on the street. In addition to that, as you well know, Governor Sununu in New Hampshire put $400 million on the street in a very short period of time. And I do believe, just talking to my fellow district directors from around New England, is this a panacea? No, it's not. But it certainly helps people get to that next step. And with the rise of COVID and the discussion about cutting back, I just think, Governor, as much help that we can get to the small business community, the better off we're going to be. And in addition to that, I know a lot of people talking about the potential additional PPP. Yep. No, I'll let you comment on that if you wanted to comment on that before I go to PPP.
I just wanted to just reinforce call on. One of the businesses received a $30,000 grant out of the Restore Rhode Island. And, the suggestion is to put more money on so that business and every other business can get a second check or a third check by Christmas. And that's going to buy them time. Thanks, Mark. Go into the federal stuff, please.
My personal, just looking at portfolio, and we also had a conference call with all of our partners. And we're getting a lot of people asking for assistance, and they really do need help. They're not interested in additional loans. They really do want grants, something to keep them going for the next 4 to 6 weeks. And the governor, I do think that, and I've said this before, you've heard it, it's kind of my mantra: hospitality, restaurants, retail, hoteliers, those are the ones, and yes, there are others that are impacted as well, but those are the ones who are the most fragile right now. And the last thing that we want to do is to continue to see our hospitality industry go by the wayside. That's just a personal opinion. I've been here for almost 40 years, Governor, probably too long. But it's just my concern as I see across the landscape. Now, I want to deal with two different PPP issues. One is PPP forgiveness. I have a number of people who are always asking to be forgiven. Bud McCann is one of those people, just FYI. And I say, you're not going to be forgiven yet. You need to get your stuff in. You need to process it. I reached out to our processing center in Herndon yesterday, and I asked them, where are they in this process? And basically what they said to me is, they are taking the full 90 days to get to grant forgiveness. And the reason for that is the volume of loans that's going through this process. So, and I've been contacted by a number of people saying, hey, listen, my bank approved. One gentleman yesterday said, my bank approved me on October the 4th. Well, actually, that's not when it was approved. It was approved on November the 7th. So they are taking the 90 days. And that's what basically what they've been telling me. We would like to see this quicker. And in our discussion with the administrator last week, Governor, we said, we need to do whatever we can to get forgiveness in the pipeline. Did you want to comment on that?
No, I think that's good information. I know that everybody's waiting on what the best direction is on that forgiveness strategy. So.
Now, forgiveness will not impact if we get another round of PPP. I do know that Senator McConnell, Senator Collins, Senator Rubio, and Senator Cardin and Shaheen are talking about more of a structure in the next PPP segment. And again, it's like everything else. We have to wait for it to be enacted by the Senate, by the House, and the president to sign it before we can really opine on it. But the bottom line is everybody's hopeful that a new round of assistance will be coming down. And having said that, Governor, clearly it's needed. There's no question about that.
Yeah, something's coming in with your help, and thank you for being here. You know, more and more people in Rhode Island will get the information really quickly. Joe, do you have any questions of Mark at all?
No,
I know I
don't
did.
think
I know we
so.
had one question, Mark, and I don't know if you can handle this or not, but
Sure.
is there people who are, for instance, say some people have outstanding, this is more on the CARES Act, so I don't think that, but some people have outstanding federal taxes. Are they qualifying for grants like the EIDL loan and that type of thing? Do you know?
Yeah, I mean, if you have, in other words, in order to, and so if you have outstanding federal taxes and you have what they call a workout plan in place, yes, you're qualified to move forward with an EIDL loan. And on the EIDL side,
Okay.
thank you for mentioning it, Governor, because I got 2 yesterday, 1 today. If individuals are impacted from a fraud perspective, please call me, please email me. I know Ben has the email address. Let us know, because we are continuing to talk to both the Inspector General and they're talking to the U.S. attorneys, and this continues. I mean, 3 in the last 2 days is pretty significant.
And we're
All right,
seeing a lot
Mark.
of
Ben, you have anything for Mark?
on the employment
Joe.
side. So that's a good point. And keep in mind that whether it's PPP or fraudulent unemployment claims, those things can still get, or imposter claims, I guess I'd call them, can still get reported to the taxing authorities. So make sure that you follow through. Make sure you file your police reports. Go to the FTC. They've got a toolkit to help you understand what you need to do, so that when it comes tax time,
We
you won't be
developed a very close relationship because of you, Governor, with the Rhode Island State Police, the Financial Crimes Unit. They're referring people to us. We're referring people to them. Excuse me. But Joe, you're absolutely right. We're seeing a lot of correlation between a fraud claim for unemployment and then an EIDL loan on top of it.
Mark, thank you so much. Got a big,
Thanks, Governor.
busy schedule here today, but hopefully you can hang on, listen a little bit, but we'll stay in touch.
I will.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Mark.
Yeah. Let's bring on Director Tanner next. I think, is she available? Director Tanner? Hi, Liz.
I've got my mask on.
I like it. You know, I've been kidding around a little bit, but not kidding. I'm saying it's indecent exposure to go out without your mask.
I did hear that. I think that's a good one. I like it.
You know, the
These are the Mount Hope
exposure.
Huskies. This is my daughter's high
Nice.
school. Mount Hope Huskies,
Nice.
yes. So doing a little local
Nice.
thing. If Matt Weldon's coming on, I know he'll appreciate the East Bay shout out. So
He will, definitely. Liz, thanks for being here. You know, updates on the Department of Business Regulation. I know I have a couple questions for you on my tours, but please give an overview. You might actually pre-answer them, but tell us what's going on.
that'd be great. Yeah, you know, I have a couple things to talk about. Weekly, I have a meeting with the Department of Health and the Governor's shop where we talk about where we're seeing problems in the workplace. And so I've got kind of a list of things, because what we're finding is that when we're working, when we're doing the stuff that we do that we're there for, everybody's pretty good, right? They're wearing their masks, they're keeping their distance, they're doing the right thing. It's all these little one-off situations that are causing the problem. So I'm going to kind of run through a list of some of the things that have happened in the last 2 weeks where people got cases that we are aware of. They resulted in at least a cluster of 2 to 3 or more employees getting sick, and letting people know to think about stuff outside of just what you do for work. So for example, going to the bathroom with taking your mask off. If somebody else went to the bathroom and had to cough before you went in, that air has whatever's in it, right?
Yeah.
Lunchtime, having lunch with somebody else. Whether you're sitting far away or not, if you're in a small room, you're sharing the same air. We talk about that a lot, right? So either don't have lunch with somebody, or you've got to be far away, or you've got to have those windows open. There's lots of things you can do, but it's really important to think about your airspace and what you're sharing. Same thing with the smoke break. You have people who go outside, it's chilly, they huddle up, they're pretty close to somebody else, they're trying to talk to each other. They've got their masks on because they're smoking. Those are causing problems. Same thing with going to pick up coffee. We're making a Dunkin' run. Hey, a couple of us, let's all go, right? Jump in the car together, nobody's wearing a mask, they're talking to each other at the Dunkin' in order, and they come back. Another thing, let's go get a drink after work. There's just 2 of us, we had a tough day, it's COVID, it's crazy. Just one drink. They're not in your pod, your masks are down, you're talking to them, you got COVID, right? Another thing, that morning meeting that you have when we try to divvy up the tasks, right? So it's just a quick meeting, quick little huddle, but when it's a huddle, everybody's close to each other. There's got to be other ways you can think of how to get around that. Don't have a morning huddle. Shoot an email, write it down, put something on the wall. spread everybody out. There's lots and lots of things. So it's always when the guard is down, right? And so as I like to say, COVID doesn't care if you wear your mask properly 99% of the time. It's still there that 1% of the time, right? So think about not just what you're doing in your daily job, but all those other things that happen, the things that you don't necessarily think about, right? So as an employer, you got to protect your employees, encourage them to try to be smart about all of those things I just listed, because every one of those situations has at least one cluster in the last 2 weeks. Doesn't seem like it's a big deal, but right there, you're looking at probably 20, 30 cases right there. So it's important to think about the whole picture, not just the work day. So that's what I got for you today, LG. What kind of questions?
Yeah, well, I think that's really important, Liz, what you're saying. And I've been trying to echo that, the only line of defense we have now is the mask until in many ways, until the vaccine comes our way. So, and I've been encouraging not only the small business community to understand this, but I just think this is a community at large issue. This is the Boys and Girls Club work. This is the local churches work. This is the local Y's work. This is the local, the local athletic teams. It's the municipal leaders. This messaging on the masks needs to get a lot deeper than just the small businesses, because, holding the small businesses accountable for flare-ups that they don't have any control over is going to really hurt those businesses. Going to hurt our community. So I just think it's a really broader messaging that we can get into, and I've been starting to contact church groups and others that get buy-in on this. And I happen to be someone that believes in incremental flexibility, and that if we're able to control this, we should be able to get to a 50% capacity, to a 60, to a 65, or wherever we might be, to move forward to help these businesses out. But if we don't get control of this issue with the masks, as you just explained, the prospects of that happening are not very likely. So until this vaccine comes. Joe, you had any questions for Liz?
No, thanks for that outline, Liz. It occurs to me that these days everyone has learned, that there are alternatives. The Lieutenant Governor's office has a morning huddle every morning online. So you don't need to stop doing those things. You just need to change the way you do them. And we can all manage for a little bit longer now. And thanks for all your work.
Yes.
Thank you. I will say that we are starting to do, we are enforcing heavily now on the masks. That's something that we've always tried to be understanding about, but there's really no excuses anymore, and it's a problem. If that mask is gone, we're giving you a citation. If the mask is down here, we're giving you a citation. If the mask is here, we're still giving you a citation. You have to wear it over the nose. So yeah, we are being tough now. It's crunch time, it's go time, and we're trying to take it real serious, because it's the businesses that are doing great that we want to support, that we fully respect, and they're doing a great job. But those who still have people not wearing masks at all, yeah, I'm sorry, it's time for you to get a citation. So we're coming down pretty heavy on that now.
Yeah, and Liz, the piece of information that I'm getting, it's more anecdotal than anything else, but that we're in every community. I think we're going to hit all 39 cities and towns the day after Thanksgiving. Susan and I are headed to Block Island. We got our, the high speed ferries running that day. So I think that'll be our 39th community. But so we're seeing hundreds of businesses right now, because the municipal leaders and the local chambers are really opening the doors, and we're meeting most of the people out on the doorstep, giving them some masks and talking to them about it. But every once in a while, the issue of inspections come up, and from one inspector to the other, in their view, some of the businesses feel as though there's inconsistencies in the interpretation of some of the rules. So where do they go to get, to get a better understanding? We've been to the office on several of these things. What's the advice? One day they get one piece of information, another person's interpretation a week, 2 weeks later is a little bit different. What do they do with that? How do they kind of reconcile that?
And we do address that quite a bit, right? So, for example, Rhode Island Hospitality Association or the Food Dealers Association that represents grocery stores, they come to us often and say, hey, we had a meeting with our members. 3 of them said that they were asked to do this regulation, and we're not sure if that's accurate. So then we go back, we look at it, we provide the information to the association. They make sure that information goes out to all their members. If there's a one-off situation where you're not represented by association, you should absolutely feel free to just reach out to us and ask. But when someone's getting an order to a compliance order or immediate compliance order or a citation, we're very confident in those orders, right? Because what we're trying to do is, again, build that customer confidence. And, there are so many businesses that are doing it right. We want everybody to try to do it right. So we are pretty confident about those. But when there's one-off situations, yes, if they want to, feel free to reach out to us and double check on something. Absolutely. We do that all day, every day. We're glad to provide where we see the regulation, or we'll admit an error if we make one.
Great. Liz, thank you so much for your leadership. Not an easy job. And, especially with, the different pushes that you get from different directions, including our office. But we appreciate your professionalism and bringing on that message. You're the first one that really, laid into this mask thing a few months back, and you were right on target. I wish more people had listened at that point in time. We would probably be in a better spot right now. But it's never too late. We can figure this out. And thank you for your office and all the work you're doing. Joe, do you have anything for Liz at this point?
Oh, thanks, Liz.
Yeah, Liz, thank you.
Thanks.
See you next week, if not the week after, all right?
Thank you very much. Oh, you're in good hands with Secretary Pryor.
Oh,
Stephanie,
yes,
you got
the
that.
secretary's on board. Yes. I think he's got his mask with him. He had his mask a couple
Very
weeks ago.
nice.
when he was here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Always. I look
Yeah.
much
Thank you very
better with
much.
my mask on, by the way. That's the primary
well,
reason. That's
I
the
tell ya.
additional benefit.
Liz, while you're still there, Liz's still there. I can tell you that there's this sense, not only there's this sense of pushback on the political side of, whether it should be a mask or not be a mask. But also I find that, I was in a situation with my family at a very small event with 3 people, 5 people. And the owner of the business came in. When they came in, they had a mask, but then they felt self-conscious about talking to us with a mask, and they took the mask off. And I'm sitting there saying, no, don't feel self-conscious about it. Wear the mask. We're wearing our mask, and it's perfectly acceptable social behavior right now. And I find some people think that somehow that they're being impolite by having this discussion with the mask on, but that's not the case.
Opposite. Yes.
It's the
No,
opposite.
the
Well, we're glad to
default
have
needs
you as
to
a
be
leader.
wearing a mask.
Yeah. Thanks, Liz.
It does.
Thank you.
Secretary, thank you for being here. We're all looking for the updates on the different programs that are helping these businesses. I don't know if you overheard, but I was saying we had a coalition call with the small businesses. I think we got over 3,000 businesses now registered on that site right now. And they have put a letter together to the General Assembly, and I'm copying that to the governor and to you today if it hasn't already gone out. But one of the business owners received a $30,000 grant, and he was saying that it was workable, and he was able to get it, and the money went into his account in 9 days after he had applied. Mm-hmm. So there is a lot of progress going on here. Tell us where we are. Do you have an idea where we are in terms of how much is left available on that 50 million, and how much is spoken for right now?
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Really appreciate the opportunity to be back, and really glad to be among great team members and colleagues in talking with you today. The Restore Rhode Island program, which is, of course, the small business grant program that Commerce proposed back in May, and which we've been pursuing ever since, with the team working overtime, making it happen, is very fired up and happening. As a matter of fact, one key fact to remember is that our neighboring states, Massachusetts and Connecticut, we adore them. They're terrific, but they have yet to make a single small business grant. And Rhode Island is on round 3 of expansions and firing on all pistons. So we're proud of that, and we know we can always do more, and we must do more. But we're proud of the fact that we're leading in the region once again. 2,200 businesses have received grants, over $27 million now of small business grants. The doubling of our grants, which under Governor Raimondo and with Commerce's hard work was implemented with a very quick, relatively efficient form for businesses. Relatively easy digital application. We've had 655 businesses go through that so far. So thank you to all the individuals who've helped to publish that, all the businesses that have taken the time to do it. We know that it's hard to take even a handful of minutes. And certainly if it ends up taking even a little bit longer than that, we're super grateful. So that program is still going. we've also, as we promised to do, unveiled a series of programs for other business challenges and business types. We established a business adaptation program for businesses that need even more, that were blown out of the water, that needed to pivot dramatically in the midst of this. It's not mutually exclusive with Restore. It can be supplemental to Restore depending upon the scenario. We can't ever double dip or double pay. But for those businesses, I just want to note for you, we've had that program is now closed. It closed on Monday, closed yesterday, and we had over 400 applications. So we may be oversubscribed. We'll still have to do the adding up. We were planning for an initial 1.75 million for that program. It may be oversubscribed. For hotels and arts organizations. So hotels and arts organizations are eligible for Restore. They can apply to compensate for business losses that way. But we know that there are deeper losses there. In some cases, they're hobbled. They're unable to operate of no fault of their own. So many marvelous arts organizations, so many important hotels that support our convention industry and our tourism industry. So we put $20 million into that program. And one of the components of that program, we call it HART. HART. It's let's see if I can challenge myself. It's hotels, arts, and tourism. AR, we kind of gave ourselves poetic discretion or whatever the proper term would be.
Yes.
Hotels, arts, and tourism. Very serious set of problems. There's still half of that amount, 10 million, is for hotels and arts groups to tell us, here's the kind of digital programming we can do. We can hold a digital convention. We can hold a digital performance, very small group activities for as long as those can be allowed. We hope, even if there ever is a pause or a restriction or a shutdown, they will be reinstated. We don't know as of yet that they can apply to get their losses subsidized or partially compensated for. So that's happening. And another program, Lieutenant Governor, just to remind everyone, we had a remote work program where we asked intermediaries to help us get laptops out and more digital access out to help businesses do business. And we got a bunch of intermediary applications for that. And Take It Outside, we're over $7 million in grants now over multiple rounds here of Take It Outside grants to help businesses stay outdoors where it's safer. So all that's going on very appropriately. Our focus is on this program, in substantial part, the direct grants through the Restore program, first in our part of the region to get up and running, and up and running we are with that $27 million. I do want to say that the context is really important right now. There are public health trends going in the wrong direction in Rhode Island, in our region, in the country. I want to say a couple things about that. Some states have started to implement restrictions. Vermont, Michigan, there's others. Oregon. States across the country have begun to draw the conclusion that they need to lean in with restrictions. None of us hope for that, but we have to be ever vigilant and ensure that we try to do the most surgical and most limited interventions to try to keep our business community open for business. And I want to say this, make this point, if I may. We heard from our fantastic colleague from the SBA, Mark Hayward. There's no equal. He's amazing, and he's a Rhode Islander first, second, and third. But I do want to say this. I honestly think this is not aimed at Mark Hayward, but it's increasingly irresponsible that the federal government has not provided new tools for struggling states and municipalities. So they are being forced to choose between their testing system. It has the per capita level of test country, and it's helping to keep us, we've had to set up auxiliary hospitals, field hospitals, necessary for the potential overflow if there were to be what seems to be anticipated now as to a surge, unfortunately, in this country. It is increasingly irresponsible that the federal government does not come through with more aid for these purposes, small business assistance and testing assistance and PPE assistance and hospital subsidies and investments and supports for our schools that are aiming valiantly to stay open or are even adapting digitally wherever they may be. We need more support from the federal government. We shouldn't have to make these choices. Rhode Island has made a big choice in favor of small businesses. We're making tens of millions of dollars of investment. We need to do more, and we need to do more with the confidence that the feds will have our back. Our congressional delegation does. We have a congressional delegation par excellence. They are led by Senator Reed, but with every single member, they are doing an incredible job. But Lieutenant Governor, we all need to join forces. And in addition to looking for more resources out of our limited pool, which I think is merited, and as we have, I described the set of investments we're making, we will continue to make investments as our governor has envisioned and has insisted. But we also need to ask for more from the federal government. It is certainly time. It is overdue, and I want to end on that note.
Yeah, so Secretary, I agree with that, and certainly we've echoed that with our congressional offices. And there's going to, especially when this is going to linger, the vaccine's not going to be, out there for several months in terms of mass distribution, and vaccinations. And so there's a lot of anxiety right now in the small business community. We're in every community and talking to every business that you could imagine. And so that's why we just keep on bringing back to you and to the governor what we're hearing. And, I think it's reasonable to, based on the fact that our projected deficit is getting more under control with some really good internal management, obviously. And now we're down to, something in the $100 million range projected. Hopefully we're going to be able to free up even more dollars. And that's what our letters this week describes, Stefan. So, put another 75 million in, make everybody who's received the check get another check by Christmas. And then if there are shutdowns, then let's help not only the businesses, but also the staff members who are going to be out of work because of the closures to keep us safe. So I think that's all very important, but I do compliment you on branding all these programs. I remember when I was the mayor and I wanted to get something done at the high school because it was falling apart. And I wanted to do an academic, athletic, and art type of improvement. And so I stole UConn 2000. My son Matt was at UConn, which is in your home state. You remember UConn 2000, which in that
not
case,
my home
I think was
state, actually, but my previous state, yes.
Yes, and you were involved in education there too, as the commissioner of education.
Yes.
So so we stole that UConn 2000. We called it a CHS for Come On High School 2010. So we projected out 10 years, and we ended up doing about $40 million of improvements to the high school campus. So branding is very important. And by the time it was over, everybody was talking about CHS 2010 as if you didn't need a long explanation, just like Restore Rhode Island is and the other programs you're doing. So yeah, just keep on doing everything you can to, advocate for the dollars. And I'm with you on the congressional issues. On the Washington, D.C. issues, we need to continue to have our voice heard there. And I'll be happy to partner in with you to do that, just that. So
we do. And just on that point, Senator Reed, Senator Whitehouse, Congressman Langevin, Congressman Cicilline, they have been magnificent, and they've delivered in the first major stimulus package. They delivered, and they are advocating like no one else's delegation. But what I would ask of this fantastic coalition and the viewers here, and of all the leadership elected and appointed in our state, we need to turn our attention during this transition period, the White House transition period. We can't wait for it to be completed through January 20th and then, burden a new administration with finally getting started on a new stimulus. We need aid in significant quantity now. So to the extent that we can join forces and send letters also to the White House, and to the Senate leadership, not the minority caucus, the Senate leadership, and in the United States Senate, and express to them we need more now, and we are in active conversations about if we do need to turn out of necessity because of the public health and frankly to protect our businesses long term. If we do need to engage in more restrictions, then we are looking for ways to find the resources locally to support our businesses. We are absolutely doing that. Our governor has demanded that of us, and we are doing it. And of course, our state took the initiative within our part of the region to provide direct aid to small businesses. We're going to try to follow suit with more if we possibly can. But Washington needs to step up again. It really, truly does, and it is my theme for the day.
Thank you, Secretary. Ben, do you have any questions for the Secretary? If not, we'll kind of get Matt Weldon on and get to the unemployment issues, which Stefan's doing his damnedest to make sure we have less and less unemployed in the state because of the work that he's doing, right? Oh, got the mask on. Good. Thank you. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Secretary.
Secretary, thank you again for being here, and I appreciate all your leadership on this. Let's get the money out and keep on advocating for more and more help for our small businesses and the employees that they that they employ, right? The staff that they employ.
As are we every day,
Thanks.
every night, weekends included. Thank you so much for this forum. It really means a lot, and great to see you, my colleague Matt Weldon, and thank you again, Lieutenant Governor.
Okay, Secretary, thank you. Matt, welcome aboard. I don't know if you heard Liz Tanner gave a little shout out to your neck of the woods. You know, she put on her high school, was it Mount Hope? I can't recall what she put on.
Mount Hope Huskies.
Yeah.
We had one here.
Mount
I went
Hope
to go to
Huskies.
find it. I couldn't find it, so I wore my other one for you.
There you go. Well, we
Sorry for the
appreciate
informal presentation today, but I had to move. I'm having Wi-Fi problems at home, so I had to move into the other room.
Okay, well, you're
unemployment
looking good there. I see a lot of pictures, a lot of family pictures, a lot of
That's right.
history on that wall, right? A lot of,
That's right.
family history on that wall. Give us the overview on DLT, and then the questions that may come up. They're still out there for sure, and the enormous amount of calls you're taking. Just share that with the viewers.
I want to touch on something Joe mentioned earlier, and that is for people that are victims of fraud in the unemployment context. If a payment was made to that fraudster, then there are some tax implications. It doesn't mean you'll be responsible for it, but there is a form or some information that we have to provide you, and you would submit that with your taxes to hold you harmless. If you don't get one of those, of course, you can call in to 415-6772 at the end of January. But when you did get it, if you had questions, you call the call center. If not, it should be self-explanatory. Use it, file your taxes, and you won't be harmed because of any payments that were made. That's an important point. I'll talk about it again as we come up in future weeks. But you're not, because someone filed in your name and took advantage of the program, you are already victimized. We won't further victimize you with the federal government or state taxation. Otherwise, just before this session today, we had already handled 566 customers. That means we're on our way to well over 1,000 again today. Every day we've been over 1,000, except Saturday mornings, which are pretty quiet. Please give us a call. If you have a problem, call in. If you find yourself out of work and you had a claim previously that was open earlier this year, try to certify. If it doesn't work, call in. They'll help you. If not, and you're having problems, go to the ltgov20@gmail email address. Ask them for help. They'll put you in touch with me, and whether I'm here at home or in the office, I'm going to take care of it. I assure you we'll get on track and get you what you have coming to you. Otherwise, things are pretty much status quo. We're still taking workshare applications. The challenge with workshare is right now it's federally funded through the end of the year,
Yes.
which really means December 26th for Rhode Island. If they don't do something in DC, then we have a problem. And it doesn't mean workshare won't continue, but the funding goes away. So you would be charged like you would for any other unemployment claim. And so that's an important thing to know, I think, that
Yes.
right now, advocate with your congressional delegation, like Secretary Pryor said, continue to ask for help because this federal resource is a great benefit for Rhode Island companies.
Yeah, and Matt, you just heard a little note there thanking you for your service there from Mark Dion, who's one of our members of our coalition and had been a member of my advisory group since I've been Lieutenant Governor and before that. Yeah, I think that you're one of the topics that's going to start getting front and center here as the federal aid is going to hopefully it gets restored so that workshare program so it goes into the first half of next year, and we need to put that on our list with the congressional leaders because that's a big help because the high unemployment could drive unemployment rates for these small businesses in the state, which is going to, again, it's going to make the recovery slower the more dollars that have to be expended, as a result of of this pandemic. So I think that it's an important point you make in there in terms of where the federal government comes in. But also, we're going to have to create this argument. I'm sure it started already about restoring that fund. And there are states right now, and I'm sure Rhode Island's considering it, to use a portion of that $1.25 billion to restore the fund. And I think that you must be starting to get calculating how much we've withdrawn on that fund and how much you're going to need to restore that. So maybe at some point in time, you can kind of report that back to us in some hard numbers so that we can kind of see what is really, the impact of all this work that you're doing and providing all this unemployment. It is drawing on our unemployment fund, right?
Sure is. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd be happy to talk about that in another session.
Yes.
I can just say so far we've spent over $2 billion, and 3/4 of that has come from the federal government directly.
Yes.
So that's good. And we're pushing as much as we can to them. But yeah, we're going to have that conversation for sure.
Absolutely. Joe, you got any questions for Matt?
No, not in particular. I guess I'm just wondering, I'm seeing, Matt, in the last 2 weeks, sort of we had a little downtick in some of the imposter claims being filed, and it seems to be ramping up a bit again. Are you seeing the same, or is that my own anecdotal experience, or?
I don't know. What happens is we seem to get them from, like, employer will say, I had 4, I had 6, and, why do I have so many? And, we really don't know right now. We know that the information is because it was purchased online, most likely from a previous breach. The problem is we don't know what breach it was.
Sure.
And you may not even know that as the individual. You don't even know you were breached in the past. There's not really a sense of exactly why they're coming in the way they do. We have put further restrictions on that federal pandemic unemployment application, so there are more hoops to go through. That's slowed it down quite a bit, but it doesn't stop them all. And they're a pretty cunning group. They can figure out how to get these things through, and they work on it every day. Unfortunately, bad people have a lot of energy to put into bad activities. I don't know.
Yes. Well, I guess the message is, just because you haven't been experienced it prior to now doesn't mean you won't. And if you've had one, I mentioned to Mark on the PPP side or on this side, probably means your information is compromised. Go to the FTC's website, figure out how to deal with that, whether to lock your credit, those sorts of things.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate all your work.
For sure.
Yeah, make sure you deliver that message back to your staff as well. So let's bring on the coalition. I know that we got another 15, 20 minutes to go here. I think that we'll be able to be pretty good here. Chris, welcome aboard. I thought we might just talk a little bit about the letter that you've sent to the General Assembly today and any of the other observations you might have that you could bring forward from the coalition. Yes, and we're encouraging everybody to go and sign up at the rismallbusiness.org and become part of the coalition. But Chris, welcome, and thank you for your leadership.
Thank you. Thank you for your leadership as well. So the Rhode Island Small Business Coalition, we meet every Monday at 11 a.m. on a Zoom call. And during this Zoom call, we talked about the steps that we can take to ensure that we can help our small businesses survive during this economic crisis, especially with other states doing some type of lockdowns, and we're trying to be proactive in case Rhode Island goes down that route as well. But with our letter to the General Assembly, it simply talked about how we need to work with them. They have the opportunity here to have a significant role in helping us small businesses navigate this pandemic, and just asking for a much simple checks and balances with the governor. I mean, the governor and her administration is doing what they can to help us through this, but we're just looking for some transparency when it comes to that $1.25 billion of federal dollars that we're talking about. That those dollars expire, December 30th, and we want to see, where they are each week, and perhaps, a call for a weekly report on that and where these cases are coming from. But we're also calling for immediate allocation of the $75 million in additional funds through the CARES Act. And this can be providing additional funds to these small businesses as we're getting through this tough time throughout the end of the year. for businesses, whether they apply, they can get another check. If they didn't apply, then they can get, an additional amount. And even those businesses that are opened just in 2020 and open this year, they should be included as well. So those are some of the things that we discussed in our letter to the General Assembly.
Yeah, very important. And I know that we're reaching out to the General Assembly members to see whether they would, react positively to the, the professionalism that the coalition is bringing forward. I just want to let people know that this is a, a very measured group, but they're very serious, Chris, about their needs and able to express those. And through your work and Laurie and Justin's and everybody that's involved with the coalition, we've been able to create a platform that gives you a voice, and you've taken advantage of that. So hopefully we're going to see those measures you talked about, which is, again, put another $75 million in, make the application more streamlined again. If there are closures, be prepared to put another $75 million in to help those businesses with their closures. And also, I know that on the coalition calls, there was a high sensitivity to the potential impact that it's going to have on their staff. And so we should be prepared to, if people have to get on unemployment again for any reason, and there's a gap between what they would earn and what they would collect on unemployment, I have no problem using some of that $75 million to help offset some of those needs for the staffing, because without staffing, we can't run our small businesses. And so we need to be aggressive, as you are right now, and the coalition is being. And we'll wait on the response from the General Assembly. We'll invite them on to talk about this next week. And of course, our letter to the governor today has already been sent. It'll be posted, and it attaches the coalition's letter, and it's basically a cover letter support for the coalition's recommendations. So thanks, Chris.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Bring on Melissa Travers if she's in the back room there, and then we'll bring a couple businesses on after that. Melissa.
I'm here. Good afternoon, Governor. How are you?
I'm doing great today, Melissa. And I know that we share these Cumberland roots, so we always give 2 thumbs up to our hometown, and then the work that you've done locally, but in your relatively new position with all the tax accountants and the CPAs. Tell us a little bit about that, and then share a little bit with the program that you've sent to me about the different types of help and assistance that your organizations are providing. Thanks for being here, Melissa. Unmute yourself. There you go.
Thank you so much, Governor. And good afternoon, everyone. So I am Melissa Travis. I'm the president and CEO of the Rhode Island Society of CPAs and the Rhode Island Business Forum. I am also a director for the Rhode Island Business Coalition. That's a 28-member industry group. I serve on the executive board of the manufacturers, and of course, I serve on the Lieutenant Governor's Small Business Advisory, and we go way back. In fact, that Clippers 2010 and all of that, it was actually, that brought back some memories for me. So thank you for that. So there's been a lot going on. We've been an SBA partner, so I work very, very closely with the small business community for going back decades now. And I am very, very grateful to be able to share with so many of these small businesses, the Small Business Coalition and everything you're doing, what Whisper is doing. I think it's very unique. It's unprecedented, actually. And I would argue that we are helping people. I will get to the application assistance with the Restore RI grants and things like that. But I would argue some of these programs may be at least as important, if not more so, for businesses, because we've seen some of the businesses struggling, or why some of them are underwater. So I think this may be a perfect time for them to pivot or transition. And some of the assistance that we're offering is pretty key. So we are offering, it's called the Technical Assistance and Training Program, as you just alluded to. And this is a very unique, it's free for the business community. So I want to stress that if you are a business owner, or you know a business owner, or you work with clients that are struggling, we have put together a very unique program. It includes legal assistance, legal training, legal positioning, entity, changing, transforming your entities, doing things that you may not be able to afford to ask an attorney. You may not be able to pay to sit down with an attorney and pay the hourly rate. We have partnered with Duffy Sweeney, one of Rhode Island's premier law firms, to do that. We have, as I just alluded to a couple minutes ago, grant and loan application assistance. We've partnered with two really premier CPA firms, Markham LLP and Diligentium, to give folks not just the assistance with applying for the Restore, RI or any other grants, but also giving you a good foundation for when you're doing the loan applications. Our members are, the CPAs worked with, I don't know how many businesses we had helping the PPP and EIDL and all the different loans. And one of the things we've seen and why we've also put together a business plan and strategic plan training for folks is a lot of people have been doing good until they're not. So this is going to really help you create a good foundation for your business, give you, again, this is unprecedented and I'm really proud of this. We have HR policies. We've partnered with EA and the Employers Association of the Northeast. So if you want to try to update your employee handbook, if you have confusing, you're not up to date on what's happening with the FFCRA or PUA or paid leave, this is the perfect time to get that information. Strategic plan, competitive analysis, taking your business online to Zoom. We hired a huge premier Zoom trainer out of Boston. And he showed us, we did a quick run through and just little tricks when you're using Zoom or Teams that could transition how you're doing business to help you really be able to go after people, how to find clients online. So there's a lot of really good stuff. Again, I'm very proud of what we've put together and this is free. So we will have the information I know on your website and available to you can visit our website. If you have questions, we do have some limited one-on-one training. With Markham and Diligentium, if you want assistance with those applications, you can email covid@rispa.org if you want some information. But again, I think strategic planning, business avionics, Larry Gerard, people know him. We have businesses all over the state that have been hiring him to do things like that. And again, folks like Duffy Sweeney and Markham, for a lot of small businesses, these are people you may never have been able to work with. So this is a really nice opportunity to really get you some help and be able to situate you for future programs. Obviously, we're seeing PPP too. We'll be, they're crafting, fine-tuning that now, but that I have no doubt that will happen. So I feel like a lot of these businesses, give yourself, the opportunity to be in a position with those strategic plans and business plans and financial cash flow. Susan Greenhall and Mind Your Money helping you with credit and cash flow. Increasing your credit score. A lot of small business owners struggle with, improving their credit score. So we've got a lot of assistance for you. And again, we've got some programs put together. We're running them for a total of 4 weeks. And again, we also are offering some one-on-one assistance.
Melissa, that's a lot of information. And I know, that I'm a small business person myself. And when we go over these roller coasters, and then we get these dips like we're in right now, where it's not any different than the banking crisis or the internet bubble or the real estate collapse that we had a decade ago. I know as a small business person, I still refer to a handful of people who helped us through and guided us through. I call them my guardian angels. And every Christmas, I send them a little note and thank them for that work that they did, 20 years ago or more. So what you're offering there is so important, and have people take advantage of that offer for that level of guidance. Tremendous. Thank you so much for sharing that. And we'll get that information out to people, and we'll put that on our list of resources if we haven't already done that as we go around to these businesses around the state to make sure they are aware of that. So thank you, Melissa. Thank you for being here.
I am very pleased to be here, Governor. And again, thank you for everything you and the team are doing. I know you haven't stopped since this began. I know that because I see you all doing something. So thank you for everything you are doing. This is really important. And I think it's going to help Rhode Island recover faster than other states. I think we have done some really good things with this. I know I just saw Secretary Pryor on. There's a lot of good stuff. DLT. I mean, we're the best of the best here in Rhode Island. We're very fortunate.
We're all doing our best, and doing your best is a lot of hard work, Melissa. So, and that's what I tell my staff every morning: do your best. But to do your best, it's a lot of hard work. So, Thank you so much, and we'll get all that information out to everybody and support those programs that you provide. And that was great. We have definitely a jam pack. We're going to go a few minutes over today, but we got some really important people that I still want to bring on. If Rep. Tobon is here and Councilman Ed Brady, bring them both on right now. I want to talk about elected officials and who have business background, and that would be good. And then we'll bring on Tim Brennan and talk about the and along with Dan if he's here as well from the Greenwich Odeum. But yeah, we'll spend 10 minutes here, 5 minutes here, and then we'll head on. But Ed, thank you so much for being here. A councilman in Cranston and a small business owner. We had a chance to talk about things and in particular some of the things that are happening in Cranston, but also your perspective as a small business. Carlos Tobon, he's our rep from Pawtucket. And he's also a small business owner as well, and I consider him a very creative innovator in terms of his thinking process. So I wanted to kind of bring him on to give his perspective on it from a business owner's point of view in Pawtucket. But you both are elected officials in our state, and I think that leadership that comes from our elected officials at this point in time is so important. So Ed, please introduce yourself. Give us a little background on some things that you're working on in Cranston and your business, and then we'll go to Rep. Tobon.
Excellent. Thank you, Governor, for having me on today. I greatly appreciate it. One thing, I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation that we had last week. I felt like you were listening. I felt like you were receptive. And more importantly, I see that in government, a lot of people are losing trust in the government. And one thing that I can say about yourself is you're out in the trenches. You're fighting for us as small business owners, and I greatly appreciate that. I co-own the Thirsty Beaver Pub and Grub in Cranston, Smithfield, and Rentham, in addition to a restaurant called Huck's Filling Station. I'm a councilman in Cranston for Ward 4. In addition to that, I'm the son of a mother who works at the Department of Health. So I definitely have a very unique perspective on everything that's going on in the world. We need some outside the box thinking, but I think a lot of people in the restaurant industry, as we're seeing, early closure times and things of that nature that are bothering us, and we're fighting for survival, a lot of us feel like we haven't had a voice and we haven't had a seat to the table. And I appreciate you allowing us to have a conversation, and I can go back to that, all my friends in the small business community, and talk to them about the work that you're doing. So thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, so Ed, we encourage everybody to join the coalition, as I did on our call this, last week, and then also really speak up on behalf of as an elected official, speak up on behalf of the small businesses. Cranston, which we toured there a week ago plus with Mayor Fung, they have some really interesting programs there where they have direct access to, I think, almost $1,000 grants, so on $100,000 to go into businesses on the PPE stuff, and then also they got another grant on the Take It Outside to help them as well to go directly to Cranston. So municipalities are stepping up and trying to figure out how to help, and then also with you being in small business, just encourage everybody to go to the Restore Rhode Island grant. Take a look at that. Join the coalition, and your leadership is very important. So thank you for being here today and bringing your perspective. Well, I look forward to continuing that work as we bring municipal leaders on in this effort, which is going to continue for several years in terms of the overall recovery. So Ed, thank you. Councilman, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me on, Dan. I appreciate it.
You got it. Rep, how are you, my friend?
Gov, doing pretty well.
My traveling buddy from our past lives, right? Headed to other countries, developing an economic ambassador council with our friends with Louis Yip and Bob Billington and others, and Mayor Diosa, Mayor Grebian. And thanks for your leadership, but you also bring up a small business perspective to the table, Rep, right? So share that with us a little bit. Reintroduce yourself. I mean, you've been on with us before, but reintroduce yourself and some of your observations relative to helping the small businesses in the state right now.
Yeah, well, Gov, thanks. And as Councilman Brady mentioned, the great work you've been doing, it goes without mention. But going into this, as elected officials, we're tasked to try to create environments that foment growth and opportunity under normal conditions. And in this case, one second, hijo, yeah, taking care of my son today. So, but under these conditions, it's about survival. More than creating the growth, it's more about maintaining and making sure people, just like we have a safety net for the average person to make sure, welfare and Social Security and all that. Well, in these times of pandemic, what's our safety net? And yet we have all these tools we talk about, we have all these funds, but they're not being executed in such a way. They're giving little bit at a time, which is not sufficient. And so I've, being on finance and hearing the great ideas that come about for us to be able to help, and we sign off on them and we support them. And now I'm on this side where I'm helping the old China Inn, which is called Atrium on Main now, navigate this. And I told Commerce last week, I said, we should create a new program called the Business Orphan Program, because if you did not get that February 15th date, and between, when the pandemic was declared on March 16th and the 15th, which is the federal cutoff date, which again, they had to come up with a number, but we fall right there, March 1st.
Yeah.
So not one dime from federal, state, or city monies has come. And every time adaptation grant, restore, whatever, it reverts back to that date. So that means we pretty much don't exist, but we have the same pain, same losses as everybody else. And so that has been very painful, because now not only are we trying to open and maintain, we're scrambling constantly. And a good part of my day goes trying to find any additional funds. The take it outside was nice, but I think we got, I got 100 blankets and I got the warmers, the heaters for outside. I got more than what I needed, but what I really needed was to cover. But I had to, that was an expedition of saying, well, you can only get so much from the Pawtucket Foundation. You can only get so much from this organization. You can only get so much from the hospitality and from Northern Rhode Island Chamber of Commerce. So all of a sudden, there's all these options, but then there's all these restrictions. And I think that has been the common theme throughout this pandemic for a lot of business owners. There's all these things that we could tap into, but at the end of the day, it's like a funnel, and then you only really have access to this if you do.
Yeah, Rep. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, because you're living it right now. And as I'm going around on our 39 tour, all these cities and towns, invariably I am visiting a business that opened up during the pandemic, and they're asking the same questions you are. So you're not alone in asking that question. So when does that voice get loud enough for us to revise the guidelines of these grants? And we're recommending in our letter to the governor of 2 weeks ago, that she would include businesses that opened up during the pandemic so that they can participate in these grants. Their overhead is the same as others' overheads. Their payroll, they got responsibilities there. They signed lease agreements, purchase and sale agreements that predated the epidemic. And they did the build outs in many cases as we're going, and as you've just mentioned. So we're on that, and hopefully the General Assembly, when they get back into session, I know the coalition has sent a letter that's going to be delivered to every rep and senator about really taking a real close look at these things. We have another Dr. Gianetti from North Smithfield, but he has his practice as an eye doctor. And he sent us a very pressing message about his turbulence. He was closed during March and April. That in his memo to us, Rep, he stated where people were staying away from canceling appointments. Now with the uncertainty of the economy, not thinking that they're going to spend money on eyeglasses and other related type of expenses. And yet, right now, our doctors, our dentists, our eye doctors are not included in the program, even if they were open prior to the pandemic. So there's many loose ends on this, and we need to really kind of keep on those front and center, so that we know that there's flexibility in the way that these programs can be created. So these are all intentional, acts. So intentionally, they could put businesses that opened up, as you're stating, during the pandemic. They could put doctors into this thing. They could put these other measures. Bring Tim Brennan on for a second, if you could, because I want the rep and the councilman to hear Tim's story as well. Tim, welcome from down there in Westerly. Two little
Thanks,
fish.
Dan.
And I've been there, and it's a great place. But we just had a call, and I just want to, before you get into some of the things in your particular business, but share with the rep and the councilman, elected officials, what you shared with me in terms of being eligible for these grants and how the timelines don't match up realistically with what is happening on the ground. Share with us, please, on that.
I echo what Carlos was saying. The timeline seems somewhat arbitrary. I am a seasonal business. I'm the vice president of the Misquamicut Business Association. I represent over 40 core businesses and over 200 associated businesses that are all associated with Misquamicut Beach. As a seasonal business, we're obviously heavily invested in the hospitality and tourism sector, which is such a significant part of our economy. Small businesses are having problems, seasonal small businesses are having problems accessing the Restore Rhode Island grant for the simple reason that although they've been in business for decades, every season, for example, they're not open January through May in many circumstances. So those months, the Restore Rhode Island is calling for a base month in which you have to demonstrate a 30% loss of revenue. So they can't demonstrate it during the months they're not open. And for seasonal businesses, the bread and butter of their summer, their whole existence is basically between July and August now, because the season is so short. So what we have to do is so many more businesses could be reached if they, right now, the cutoff date for the Restore Rhode Island grant is in July. Very many seasonal businesses had like 28, 29% losses in July and then got murdered in August. What happened with us is the same thing. We barely missed the cutoff date for the revenue loss in July, more than met it in August. But in August, that is not deemed an acceptable month to use as your baseline. So seasonal businesses are a lot of times in the same boat as brand new businesses. Their resources are there, but they can't be accessed because of kind of an arbitrary cutoff date.
And Tim, that's what it is. And that's what I was saying to the rep. And by the way, the rep is a champion for our small businesses. He's helped us with so many things in terms of legislation, helping out the brewers and other factors that we've been working on. So that's why I wanted him to hear this, because I think the General Assembly is going to be taking an active role based on what I'm hearing in some of these issues that have to do with the CARES Act. I think that they just set that up in July because they set the program up in July. They weren't thinking, we're going to open this thing up for the rest of the balance of the year. And they should just keep it very simple. If you've got a comparison in a month, a 30-day, a month in 2019 that you can compare a month with 2020, doesn't matter what month it is. If you have an active comparison on those time frames between a month in 2019 and a month in 2020, that's all they got to say. They don't need to say July. They can just say 2020, compare it to 2019. If you got a 1 month that you're 30% down, you qualify.
If I could just say
that would help an immense amount of businesses.
If I could just say something,
business. Yes.
In the U.S., the saying "time is money," it seems to apply to some and not everybody, right? So the time that I spend scrambling and looking and calling and seeking and all of that stuff, that's time that would otherwise equate to money. But anybody would say, well, you're in business, that's part of the deal. But what I try to remind a lot of people is that if you work, whether it's government or business, somebody had to sell something for you to be in your comfortable chair and expect a paycheck every week. And in business, there's no predictability to a certain extent, but you know that there's a history. And we know that people go out and I see that, the restaurants that have managed to be able to weather this storm, a lot of them are full Monday through Sunday. But then there are those that are closed, and we need to make decisions every day. Do we pay the rent and the overhead to see if we can get through one more day, or do
Yes.
we market the hell out of this? But then even up until July 31st, we were having trouble finding people because a lot of people were getting a stimulus. And even now, some people aren't willing to work because we go through 100 or more Indeed applications and everything else. And I haven't been able to find reliable work. But then when I have people come in, they see that the place is pretty slow. And then they're like, well, I don't know how predictable that is, right? Where I'm going to be there maybe this week, but next week they're closed. And so all of those things, as you said, if the federal government is usually so hard to get through, and they've simplified the process, there's no reason why we're sitting on almost $1 billion and we still have it so complicated. And so that's one of the missions when I go back in January that I'm going to address, because again, usually as legislators, we're sitting on this side looking out and everything's a 30 or 50 foot view, 1,000-foot view. Right now I'm experiencing firsthand, and it's depressive because I don't see a way out. Never mind. And I can cut the line. I can call people directly and say, what's going on?
Yeah.
And I'm getting the same answers that everybody else who probably have to wait 2 or 3 hours to get through.
Rep, we've outlined many ways that we can be flexible as we go out on our tours and for instance, with Tim and his business and the timeliness of the month comparison between years. That's an easy fix. Let's fix it. The doctor I just gave an overview of the text that he sent me about the desperation that he's in because his business has changed dramatically, but doctors' offices, dentists are not allowed to go for Restore Rhode Island. We still have millions of dollars available for these businesses. When you talk about the simplification of the application, when the governor came out and said, hey, we're going to cut back restaurant hours a half an hour, and if you're impacted, you can fill out this form and you can receive it for some between a $2,000 and a $10,000 grant coming from the same pool of money that the CARES Act money comes from. And it takes 5 minutes to get that, yet every other business in the state that goes to Restore Rhode Island has multiple hours of applications, and many of them stop halfway through because of the complication of it. We could simplify this. And then what we're doing, and I want to make you aware of the letter that I'm supporting from the coalition. Chris Parisi talked about it very, very quickly, but it's so important to continue to repeat it. Put another $75 million into the pipeline. Get a third check to these businesses by Christmas. Remember, there's a deadline at December 30th. When you're back in January, you're not going to have any say over whether these dollars were spent properly or even spent, because if you don't expend the dollars by December 30th, the money goes back. The money goes back to Washington. So there's many fixes here that could happen very quickly. And if we shut down any of our businesses, we should be prepared to put another $75 million on the table so businesses can get their third or fourth check before December 30th. That will provide them from staying power. And so that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you and Ed on today, because as council people, as elected officials, as representatives, your voice needs to be heard before January 1st, because otherwise it's not going to have an impact. We're just going to be basically, picking up the pieces that are left because we didn't, weren't aggressive enough to help our small businesses. Tim, I want to thank you for being here today. That's a really important point. If we can fix that, that's going to help many businesses. If we can get these other issues addressed, get these dentists in. The dentists have got overhead just like your business, right? Just like my business, the businesses that I've operated. And unless you're in our shoes, you just don't get the anxiety that's going through our veins right now. You just don't get it. The lack of sleep. I was talking to somebody last week who just said, I woke up in the middle of the night in sweating. And the reason was the pressure that's on their small business right now. And we have these millions of dollars of resources. You've heard, Rep, that the projected deficit, as I stated 6 weeks ago, was significantly less than $900 million. Now it's being reported closer to $100 million. the reason for holding back money for our municipalities, our schools, and our small businesses no longer exists, and we can be very aggressive. And you've got several $100 million left, and without any oversight coming from the General Assembly in a way that's really, productive. Let me bring in Dan. Could you bring in Dan, or do we have to bump somebody out, or can we bring Dan in? We can. Great, Dan. And I wanted to keep our Alexa on this call as well, so they can kind of hear Dan's story. This is East Greenwich. I mean, we've got five different communities of our 39 represented here right now, and that's our goal, is to bring all these communities in. Dan, we visited you down at the Odeum in East Greenwich, and you shared some of the challenges that you're going through, but also some of the activity that you're able to continue with. But just share a little overview of that, and thank you for welcoming us down on Main Street in East Greenwich the other day.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
It was great to have you guys. Great to have you guys. I'm part of the Greenwich Odeum performing arts venue down in East Greenwich. And in March, basically, we were shuttered, like most of the performing arts and entertainment venues around the state and around the country. So we've pivoted over the last 8 months, right? We've kind of done what we can do with the space we have. We've returned to performances and movies and things like that at a limited capacity, which is great. But yeah, we've tried to sort of reinvent ourselves, I guess. We're renting out the McKee for folks to put messages up, which was really great during graduation time and Father's Day. And then as the summer came, that's when we started to, I think, bring in movies and performances as we shifted to the phase 3. Now we're doing private screenings, so you can come in with your small group, which we're hoping doesn't get reduced too much by the governor going forward, because that does allow us, some income during this time. And we're now selling merchandise and just doing what we can aside from all of the grants and all of the outreach that we're doing to the community, just from a fundraising perspective.
Yeah, and Dan, it's a beautiful theater, and I've been there and seen performances there, and what a contribution all our theaters make. We have a similar type of theater with the venues with the Blackstone River Theater in Cumberland, and they do a fabulous job, and it really contributes to the overall community, these arts. And yet, Rep, just let you know, we had a fight to get the arts into the Restore Rhode Island grant because they weren't included, and nonprofits weren't included, and yet the money is there, and it's an allowable use in the guidelines to have nonprofits or art type of related businesses included in these grants, and we had a fight to do that. Dan, you did apply for the Restore Rhode Island, I believe, though, right?
Yeah, we're in so we got our PPP from the feds way back whenever that was, April or May. We are in on this latest Restore, which was for nonprofits, and then we also have an application in for the Heart money, so we can do some programming. That'll help with some programming, but we're really pushing for the feds. I mean, with nothing happening at the federal level, but there's the National Independent Venue Association, which is a group that formed during COVID to sort of lobby Washington to really pay attention to what's happening in the arts.
Yeah, so I think that's important, Dan. But I mean, on the ground here in Rhode Island, we control what we can control. Like Tim was saying, we control the time frame that we're allowed to kind of do the comparison year over year. That hasn't been done yet. Tim has been denied, and many businesses have been denied Restore Rhode Island grant. What does it mean to a business like Ed's and your operation, or to Carlos's business, when you put another 75 million in? Again, this is not an unreasonable ask. I want to tell you, it was just like me coming out and telling everybody we didn't have a $900 million deficit, and there was a lot of disbelief and a lot of people telling me, "Oh, be careful, Dan, be careful. Don't get out with information you can't." No, I had already proven the numbers. Carlos knows that I pay attention to numbers, and I don't speak out unless I'm very sure. So I'm very sure we have flexibility here that we're not using, and I'm very sure of the fact that we can easily put another 75 million in and get a second and third check to these people and get a first check to Tim that's equal to any business out there that has qualified up to this point in time. But we got to figure out how to really drive that message. So, the letters that we've sent this week, thank you very much. That's us in East Greenwich. And don't tell anybody, but I didn't pay for, having my name on that sign, Dan, that day. But tell me what I owe you. I'll send you a check.
No, it's on the arm. This one's on the arm.
Okay. Welcome me to the community, as I have in all the communities. But there's so much more we can do, Rep. From your point of view, from the council point of view, all our council people out there. Right now, we're partnering in with Councilman Palacina and Johnston, along with the mayor's office, and we're doing a pilot program, just like we are in Central Falls with Mayor Diosa and Mayor-elect Rivera. We're talking to several hundred businesses in Central Falls right now, encouraging them to apply for Restore Rhode Island and identify things like Tim and Dan have brought to the table. We need to keep this conversation going, Tim. So we'll keep on fighting for you, and we're going to need the help of your crew down there.
You got it, Dan.
Governor, your question
Yes.
too. I mean, I appreciate you continuing to apply the pressure. That money that 75 million will be crucially important. Like Rep. Tobin said, we're all in survivor mode. We can't forecast, and that money is needed right now more than ever. So keep the pressure up. We appreciate it.
So
Thank you for all the-
that one business. You're welcome, Ed. And I'll just end with this with everybody here. If anybody wants to weigh in for another minute, I know we've gone over, but we had a jam-packed program today, and everything that was being talked about was so important information. But I can tell you, so at our coalition meeting the other day on Monday, we had one of the businesses that I had visited, encouraged them to apply for Restore Rhode Island. They weren't going to do it. I kept on encouraging. They did. They did receive a check for $30,000 this week. Took them about 9 days after they would confirm their application was in. And I said to the owner, because the owner's doing the same thing on life support, persisting and going to persevere, but at high cost. And I said, what would a second check mean to you, Mike? When I was talking to him, he said, that would be fabulous. So you put another $75 million in, all the people who receive one or two checks, they get another check before Christmas. And if they get shut down, they get an additional check. And I'm telling you, the money is there, and it makes all the sense in the world to put that on the table. So I appreciate everybody's leadership on this. Carlos, last word to you, and then we'll
I just want to say one last thing. I think in today's day and age of technology and machine learning, there's an opportunity, and I maybe you and I discussed this at some point, but where, let's say, a restaurant, it feeds off of, they need food, they need certain supplies, all that stuff. If we could start finding the companies, also, the Councilman Brady, you need cups, you need beer, you need all these things. If we could start finding the companies in Rhode Island who do that versus buying from out of state, and we have a tracking system that shows how much money's staying in the system. Yeah. With machine learning, we can show how we can get out of the actual deficit or the contribution that within the small business community, and so that would keep people going. Because I understand, let's put money for the survival aspect, but if there's a intentional approach to make sure that even during these times, there's still some growth, then that's going to help us get through long term, because it's going to create a different approach for the people on Main Street. The people are going to start understanding the correlation between their spending and how we pay the bills. So I'm just throwing that out there. I have it all in my mind as to how to do it. But
Rep, when I introduce you, you're an innovator and a good thinker. I'm focused on getting this money out. It's available. We need leadership to move the governor to put this out in place. But next week's program is all going to be about shopping local and talking about the importance of doing what you just said. We're coming up to, on the Thanksgiving weekend, which is Shop Local Saturday or something like that. We need to make sure we put our focus and ask people to do their business locally this year. This is the year to kind of start that discipline, and we'll support that. We ran way over today. Thank you so much for staying with us.
Thank you.
It just shows you that many people need to have a voice in this whole issue. So we appreciate your time, everybody that's on this call, and thank you for all your entrepreneurship in the state, and also your leadership as elected officials. Thanks so much for being here today. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you.
You got it. Yep.
Thanks.
Yeah, so we went a little over today, but these stories are so important, and we have the flexibility. We can provide a tremendous more flexibility to our small businesses. And then if we're going to be, restricting operations, to keep us safe, then we should put another batch, another round of grants for the small businesses. And in addition to that, we should be making sure that those families or those employees that are impacted by businesses that we're asking to shut down to keep us safe, that we should actually include them in the allocation of that, of another 75 million, and let them share in that along with our small businesses. So anyways, I apologize. I hope that you were able to watch this, share this out, call our office at 222-2371. If you have any questions related to any issue besides the small business. We're going to be on tomorrow night on a community conversation, and we're going to have a little, presentation on on the Mishnak Bond down in West Greenwich. And please join us. We're going to do a little, I believe we're going to do a little country dancing on that show. So, we got to have a little fun with all this turmoil in our lives right now. Stay safe, wear your masks, and we'll see you next week. Thanks a lot.